If you're watching this video, there's a really good chance you're looking for ideas for your own vehicle drawer build. And that is exactly why I made this video. I want to share with you some of my ideas that I incorporated into my own drawers and why and how I included them. Hopefully this will help you work out exactly how you want to build your own drawers. Some of the key design considerations for my drawer build were, it had to house a second battery and electrics, which meant I had to include a dedicated battery compartment. It needed to have a storage slot for a 6-foot fold-in-half table that was just held in place by friction, but still easy to slide out part way to make a quick bench. It had to incorporate a fridge slide that could be installed and removed easily. This way I could remove it when transporting larger items in the back of the car. The whole drawer system needed to be totally removable with no modification to the car required, and also not be too difficult to remove. The battery and electrics were a very important part of this drawer build, so I had to include a compartment to house the battery and electrics, which sits just behind the left-hand drawer, so it does mean the left-hand drawer is a little bit shorter. However, the battery and electrics is concealed and is out of the way, nice and tidy, but I can still access it easily through an access hatch. And the access hatch is big enough that I can remove the battery from the car without having to take the top off the drawers. My favourite part of these drawers is the 6-foot fold-in-half table that slots into the drawers. Not only does this give you a really handy, easy spot to store such a large table, it also means you can slide the table out halfway, giving you a quick, easy bench that you can use for all sorts of stuff in an instant. It's really useful for making tea and coffee or lunch when you're stopped, and is also great for when you're putting items into or out of the fridge. Flat table space is always a premium when you're camping or traveling on the road. The combination of a quick bench that also comes out fully and sets up as a large table is invaluable. We've used this setup previously when traveling long term, and I am so glad we had it. The thickness of the table and the fact it had to sit above the battery does make the overall drawers taller. So this is the downside, but it's a small compromise compared to what we gained from having this table. Having a fridge slide was essential. However, I needed the fridge slide to be easily removed, so I had a nice flat surface for when I put large items in the back of the car. So to do that, I used T-nuts, which are basically a metal thread that you can embed in timber. I embedded 6 T-nuts in the underside of the top plywood panel of the drawers. This allowed me to simply use 6 bolts to secure the fridge slide and simply unbolt the fridge slide when I wanted to remove it from the car. By using the T-nuts with a metal thread as opposed to screws straight into timber, I'm able to unbolt and bolt in the fridge slide as many times as I like without having to worry about chewing out the timber. Once bolted in, the fridge slide is super solid even when the fridge is fully loaded and fully extended. I've had drawers in the past that use roller bearings, and while these do work, I don't like how you lose an inch or so of space either side of the actual drawer to make room for the bearings themselves, which basically means less storage space. And when you're camping in just a car, you don't want to give up storage space if you can avoid it. I opted for HDPE plastic slides. Some people use Teflon, but I had a lot of trouble finding any, whereas HDPE is very easy to source. I've got slides on the top, sides and bottom of the drawer housing, as well as on the top, sides and bottom of the drawers themselves. So the plastic slides on plastic, making it really low friction, allowing the drawers to slide nice and easily, and providing a really snug fit as well. The big upside is that I haven't lost much space at all to allow room for the slides themselves, and this really maximized storage space within the drawers, and you really do notice it. I used a 1 meter by 60 centimeter by 3 millimeter thick sheet of HDPE, which cost me about 60 Australian dollars off eBay. I went with 3 millimeter thick HDPE, which I think is a really good thickness to use for this application. I attached them using some very small countersunk screws, using a countersunk bit to drill out the holes a little, so the head of the screws sit below the surface of the slides. If they protrude out of the plastic, they will foul on the other slide when you slide them in and out and create gouges and scratches. I had this happen on a couple of screws that just weren't in far enough. A really important part of the design was making the drawers completely removable and not having to modify any of the interior of the car to make them fit. The top of the drawers is made out of 19mm plywood, and this is held down by a number of stainless steel bolts. which bolt into metal T-nuts, which are secured to the main frame of the drawers. So there's no screws holding the plywood top on, it's all bolts into metal thread. This way I can remove and reinstall the top as many times as I like, whereas if I use screws straight into timber, eventually the holes would chew out after removing and reinstalling the drawers multiple times, and the screws would not hold very well anymore. The main drawer assembly is held down with 4 large bolts which bolt into existing thread in the floor of the car. One of these bolts is located inside the battery compartment. The bolt heads do stick up a little bit, so I used a trim router to cut a channel in the bottom of the drawers. To remove the drawer assembly, it's a case of removing the drawers, and then removing the table, unbolting and removing the top, removing the battery, and then undoing the 4 large bolts that hold the whole assembly down. Then it just lifts out the back of the car. To reinstall the drawers, it's simply the reverse process. So hopefully you got something useful out of this video. I think it's important to remember that what we wanted in drawers is going to be different to what you want in drawers, and that's going to be different to what the next person wants in drawers. I really hope it gave you something to think about or sparked some ideas. I'm really happy with how these drawers turned out. They work really well for us, and there is nothing I would change about them. Thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you liked this video and found it useful. If you found this or any of my other videos really helpful and want to support the channel or show your appreciation, you can buy me a coffee using the link in the description. It truly helps to support the channel. Otherwise, all the best of luck with your drawer build.